诺贝尔奖得主、英国剑桥大学三一学院院士温特应台湾桥梁计划访台，3月2日以抗体革命为题发表演讲。中研院院长廖俊智指出，以演化为工具的研究思维是当代生物医学研究的重要核心。温特因发展视菌体展示技术，掀起抗体革命，于2018年与 George Smith、Francis Arnold 共同获颁诺贝尔化学奖。温特不仅是成功的科学家、发明家，也是成功的创业家。他创业的目的不是为了赚钱，而是拯救生命。他创办多家新创公司，研发制造新药，其中抗体新药 Humira 自上市以来，全球销售额逾2500亿美元，成为全球最畅销药物。台湾桥梁计划由中研院携手台湾大学等多所学研机构与世界和平基金会共同推动。
So I was always interested in research and in biology from a very early age. I was brought up in West Africa, and the place was sort of teeming with life, snakes and lizards and cane rats. And the particular experience I remember was a scientist bringing a turtle to school, a huge turtle to school. And I thought this was amazing. And I asked him what he was, and he said he was a marine biologist. And I thought at about the age of 7, I want to be one of those people who does that. Then when I came back to England, I went to secondary school. We started work on, at the age of 13, we started doing chemistry. And it was practical chemistry, and I love that. All of the kind of things fizzing and bubbling, and, you had to think, but you also had to use your hands. And actually I found I was good at it. And in particular, I remember reading 2 books which had a big influence on me. One was a book by James Watson on the double helix, which is a fascinating tale about the life of scientists, which I thought was really inspirational. And another book, which was called Chemical Evolution by Melvin Calvin. And I thought both of these were wonderful, and that was an area I wanted to get into. The lab has got certain unique features about it. The first was, I think the most important, is it started off with, was put together by Max Perutz, who was a Nobel Laureate, and looked at protein structure. And there was Fred Sanger, who at the time it was put together, was looking at sequenced proteins. He got the Nobel Prize for that. So it started off being founded by 2 exceptional people, and they also recruited other exceptional people. And you've got a culture of people who were working very hard. They took science very seriously. They focused on really important problems. And it kind of fed through, disseminated. I would work even Christmas Eve, and sometimes I'd come in on Christmas Day. We worked very, very hard because there were high expectations, because they did. I remember once seeing Fred one evening, and we were sharing some facilities, so I had to wait for him because he was just a bit ahead of me in terms of using a centrifuge. I often used to see him when I came in the morning, and he left at about midnight. So, we've already got 2 Nobel Prizes, and he was working, right near midnight. So it's directed against TNF, which mediates lots of immune inflammatory conditions, such as rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease. And so antibodies that block the action of TNF can dampen down all of those conditions. So the first part of the success really related to the fact it's a very important target. Another part of the success, it was actually the best antibody. It had a very tight binding affinity. It could be concentrated without forming aggregates, which meant actually you could give the antibody subcutaneously by the patient, so the patient could inject the antibody themselves. It didn't need to go for a clinician to inject it. And I think the third reason related to the commercial strategy of AbbVie, which was lots of clinical trials, get lots of disease indications, securing marketing approval, taking out lots of patents on lots of different aspects of it, so as to make it more difficult for other people to copy and use the same information. And also advertising widely to patients directly on the TV. Well, there's lots of things one can do, but as a biotechnologist, what kind of thing we can deliver is a rapid means of identifying the pathogen, usually by DNA sequencing, a rapid means of identifying infected individuals and infected environments, a rapid means of creating and scaling up vaccines and drugs, small drugs. And a lot of that's already in place, but I think we could do a lot more already in doing that, in anticipating the next pandemic. In particular, I would say, I think vaccines are in quite good shape, except we need to work harder on being able to scale up rapidly production of them, and being able to, at scale, you've got to get millions of doses out, right? So it's a problem. I think the area that is scientifically more tricky is creating small molecule drugs for inhibiting viral replication. And I think there's a lot more we could do to isolate from so many different types of viruses these polymerases and develop small molecule drugs for them. So what worked for me was to focus on really important questions, not just things that interest you. They should be interesting and important. I would say what I learned as well was from the people around me, from the people like Sanger, Brenner, Perutz, Milstein, these Nobel laureates, was that they all did experiments themselves. They saw the details, and at the same time they saw the big picture. And that was combined in one individual. And that was quite important. And I would say the other thing is learn to present your work with as much clarity as you can. That's both important in science and business, in spelling out what it is that you've done. So those are the kind of things that I've found to be important in what I've learned and found to be important in my own development.